Alrighty, we're going to try that again. I think I'm on. Fortunately, this time I only realized a minute or two in that that mic was just not working for whatever reason. Yes, we're back. Thank you, Logan. And I'll get into your comments shortly. But basically, what I was saying when you guys couldn't hear me is that look, the Warriors have probably had worse losses than that this season. I look back and think of the night of the Jimmy Butler trade where the Warriors were up like 11 or whatever with 3 minutes to go in Utah against an awful Jazz team and somehow lost that game. But in terms of the implications of a loss, don't think anything quite comes close to this. And the fact that the Warriors lost in that manner after being up by 12 early or to start the fourth quarter, losing 114, 111 to the San Antonio Spurs on a Harrison Barnes game-winning dagger wing three over Jimmy Butler makes me want to vomit just talking about it. I don't know. It's hard to kind of reconcile with a loss like that. And the Warriors only have themselves to blame, must be said. The Spurs played well, but this is kind of what San Antonio have been, even without Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. They've still been a tough team to play against. They haven't just handed it to you on a plate like the Phoenix Suns did 24 hours ago. They played the Clippers pretty hard last night. They've still got some talent. Stephon Castle is going to win Rookie of the Year. Kelvin Johnson can put up some points. Vassell, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, veteran guys know how to win. So they're capable, but ultimately they're now, even with this win, they're still 10-18 since the All-Star break. So to lose to this team is just, it's just deplorable and puts the Warriors in a position where they now need other results to go their way. And we'll see if that can happen. I think if Minnesota beat Memphis tomorrow, then things are still okay for the Warriors so long as they win out and beat both the Trailblazers and the Clippers. But beating the Clippers is going to be a tough ask in itself. So I don't know, just a really disappointing. It was a back and forth game. The Warriors started well, jumped out to an 11-0 run. I think Tim Kawakami kind of jinxed it. I saw him tweet out, we might get another rest for all the key guys here at the end of this game. That's what it's looking like early. And I read that and I was like, oh man, that's a jinx if ever I've read it. And the Spurs got back into the game in the second quarter. The Warriors, that early stint, second quarter, offensively, was just woeful. They weren't getting anything going to the basket. They were just settling for way too many threes, and they couldn't hit any. I think they were 4 of 15 from deep in that quarter. Went into the half down 4, which was really disappointing after, I suppose going into the game wanting a similar kind of outcome to what we saw against the Suns, where the game was over by halftime. So the fact that it was, you're down and you're in a real dogfight at halftime is an issue already. And then credit to them, Steph came out third quarter, started playing really well. The Warriors won that quarter, I think 37-21, took a 12-point lead to the fourth. You thought, okay, if they can just play, 4 or 5 minutes of solid basketball here, they should be okay. But unfortunately, they let the Spurs right back into the game. And the non-Steph minutes were a disaster. I think they were minus 16. He was a plus 13 in his 37 minutes, which, leaves them as a minus 16 in the other 11 minutes. And outside of him and Jimmy, the Warriors didn't get enough going offensively. And I suppose the biggest takeaway from me in this game is the fact that you're still going to have to rely on some role players come the playoffs that are going to come and go with their performances. Like, I've been Pod's biggest fan over the past, couple of weeks, and this performance doesn't take away from that, but he also had 7 points on 3 of 11 shooting and 1 of 5, I think, from 3-point range. And Moody's 3-point shooting has really fallen off a cliff a little bit lately here. He had 7 points on 3 of 11 shooting, had a big dunk in the third quarter. Great. Otherwise, didn't do a whole lot, right? And the Warriors just didn't get enough out of anyone outside of Steph and Jimmy. And Draymond still played pretty well. Those clutch free throws at the end were huge. And I thought at that point, I was like, okay, 3.1 seconds left. We get a stop. We should be okay. Head to overtime. And then you think, hopefully we can get the job done. But then Harrison Barnes just puts in the dagger. And it's just a really poor loss. And I don't know where the Warriors. Let's not overreact too much. Like, they're still seventh. Even if they are in the play-in tournament, you'd assume they can win 1 out of 2 games, surely. But even then, I don't really no one wants to be in the play-in tournament, and I don't really want to have a one-off elimination game against the Kings or the Mavericks. I don't want to play Klay Thompson. I don't want to play Anthony Davis. right? In a playing tournament, one-off elimination game. No, thank you. Like, I just don't. And so that's the biggest issue for Golden State now. And again, if Minnesota can beat Memphis tomorrow, uh, and then the Warriors can win out, then I think they're still guaranteed to a top 6 seed. But now they, have put the pressure on themselves. And there was a scenario here where if they'd beaten the Spurs and the Blazers and other results had gone their way, they could have actually secured a top 6 seed before that Clippers matchup. Now that Clippers matchup just becomes everything, right? And you still got to beat Portland, right? You still got to beat Portland, which is, not easy. Like, they've got some talent. They're kind of like the Spurs. They're tough and they'll be, they're capable. And they're talented. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. Anyway, comments from you guys here. Daniel says, we are unserious. Logan says, looks like playing now. That was a must win. All remaining games will must win. Yeah. Then Decker says, wow, why are we minus 18 when Steph is on the bench? I thought we fixed that BS. It's a weird one because you look at Jimmy, and Jimmy had 28 points on 8 shots in this game, which is quite remarkable. He went 16 of 17 from the free throw line. And so you think he could have handled those non-Steph minutes, but clearly that wasn't the case in terms of the plus minus. And that's still remaining an issue clearly for the Warriors of the non-Steph minutes and the reliance on him. Thanex says, now we need to beat the Blazers and the Clippers. Absolutely. Logan says, looks like playing, considering Rockets will probably sit their players against the Nuggets. I think the most ideal outcome here is that the Timberwolves beat the Grizzlies, as I said, and then because the Warriors still have the tiebreak over both teams, hopefully they can finish 6th, and the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies are in the play-in tournament, and then the Lakers, and then the Nuggets and the Clippers are the 3, 4, 5, or whatever order that works out. Man, I swear to God, the internet is never an issue aside from when I do live streams. Absolute nightmare. So apologize to you guys again for that. But we'll stick through it here and keep going. What I was saying, basically, not only does it feel like the Warriors are better on the road, but it also feels like they're better against better teams, and they just take the better teams more seriously, and therefore come with a better intensity, better attitude. And unfortunately, like, this is a couple now against lesser opposition where, you'd think they should win and should be able to, comfortably account for the opposition, and they haven't been able to do so. Logan says, what makes this worse is the Rockets are resting their starting guys, and I had them winning over Denver, which doesn't look likely now. No, the Nuggets and the Rockets obviously play. The Rockets just lost to the Clippers. That's the worst thing about the day. Warriors lost, obviously, but then you also had the Nuggets beating the Kings, which is a bad result for Golden State. And you had the Rockets resting all their guys and allowing the Clippers to win, which is a horrific result for Golden State. Although, if you can beat the Clippers on Sunday, then I guess that makes up for it. But still, just an awful day. And you had the Lakers winning as well, which means you're no chance of catching them either. FTW Clan says, no excuse to have come out at home so soft. No starters even played in the fourth quarter last night. They took that game for granted. Yeah, exactly what I said before. It feels like some of these games, they're just rocking up and thinking, yeah, we're going to go through the motions and win. We're just a good team now, and we'll beat this team comfortably, and hasn't necessarily been the case. Standex says, can Denver still get the 3rd seed so we can play them instead of the Lakers? I'm not sure what the tiebreak situation is between the Lakers and the Nuggets. I'm assuming the Nuggets have the tiebreak because they seem to have a really good recent history against the Lakers. Just checking that now. Lakers, Nuggets. Well, it's 2-2. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll wait and see on that. FW Clan says, and the crowd was so weak, had no energy all games. If no one was aware of how important that game was, even the Spurs announcers kept saying how the Chase energy was hella weak compared to Oracle. Interesting. Obviously, I was watching the Warriors broadcast with Fitz and Klenner, so didn't catch that. Obviously, difficult to see, I suppose, or hear on TV, but I'll take your word for it. And yes, I know that's obviously been a long-running narrative about how Chase Center is certainly not as good an environment as Oracle Arena was back in the day. I'm saying back in the day as if it's, it was 20, 30 years ago. It was like 5-6 years ago. Was the final season was 2019 or whatever. Thandex says, we are the kings of self-sabotage. Minnesota might have something to say about that after losing up 24 yesterday, but this was equally as disappointing. Logan says, I don't understand playing Buddy those minutes. What happened to TJD? I was surprised with the lack of TJD minutes. Steve was just like, all right, no quit and post. I'm just going to play Draymond a heap as a small ball 5. And I guess that's okay when the Spurs are going small themselves. They're starting Bismack Biyombo, which is losing to a team starting Bismack Biyombo in 2025 is perhaps the most embarrassing aspect of this game. But yeah, I think Steve just thought, okay, well, I can get away with playing Draymond as a small ball 5 as much as I want, so I'm just going to do it. But I don't know, maybe give TJD more than like the 3 first half minutes he got, particularly given he played well yesterday. Anyway, FTW Clan says this team desperately needs to avoid the play-in for the week off if we have to use so much energy to make it out of the play-in. We're not being rested against OKC or Rockets. Good point, because even if you win the first game and you finish as a 7 seed, like coming up against Houston, man, like that's going to be tough. We saw on Sunday how hard they play and how much defensive intensity they bring, and all their long, athletic, physical guys, young guys who are going to be ready to go chomping at the bit. That's going to be tough, and so you want the rest. But yeah, if you're in the play-in tournament, it's not going to happen. Steezy says they need to play less Hield or less Kuminga. Those two on the court at the same time. It's just Matador defense. Logan says that T-Wolves and Grizzlies game tomorrow is huge. Need T-Wolves to win. I mean, if the Warriors drop that Clippers game on Sunday, there's still a chance the Warriors finish 8, and then that's kind of big trouble. Robbie says, I don't know if it's just me, but offensively, JK was playing solid. Why only 18 minutes when Moody and Mods ain't hitting? Moody and Pods, I should say, not Moody and Mods. Yeah, look, the Kuminga thing is, I kind of talked about it yesterday, where Steve's got a tough conundrum in working out who's playing best out of like Moody, Gee, Kuminga, and GP2 when he's available. Obviously, he wasn't tonight. In a game where GP2 is not playing, I'm not sure why Kuminga's only getting 18 minutes. Doesn't make much sense. I think Steve went heavily into his, main guys in this game. Everyone played fairly significant minutes. If I just look at this, I mean, Steph was up at 37. Just having a look here. Steph was up at 37. Pod's 33. Draymond 33. Butler played 38. Over 38. Moody at 31. Hield. I'm not sure why Buddy's playing 26 and a half minutes. He hit 4 threes, but 4 of 13 from the field ain't great. Kuminga 18. Looney, Santos, and Trace all kind of limited minutes. So big on the starters. Really wanted this game, obviously, but wasn't able to get it. So, but yeah, I think you're right on the Kuminga thing. Probably should have played more. 12 points, 3 rebounds, particularly when you need offense and you're struggling kind of beyond Jimmy and Steph. Logan says Denver will probably avoid the play-in now, looking like it's between us, Grizzlies, and the T-Wolves. Yeah, that'll be probably 6, 7, 8, I'd imagine. Knox says Harrison Barnes really might have just ruined our season. Robbie says, I've seen enough. Bring back Harrison Barnes. Is he out of contract this season? What's Harrison Barnes' contract? I love him he's not going to take a vet minute at this point of his career. He's still very much a better player than that. But he's had a solid career, obviously. Warriors kind of did him dirty, just throwing him. Well, I mean, he did himself dirty by not playing great in the 2016 playoffs. And then obviously the Warriors threw him out to bring KD in, as any team ever would. But HB has been a very good player for a long time and a good pickup for the Spurs. Just having a look, he's contracted until the end of next season. So, good solid player and on a reasonable-ish contract. Berserkmonk says, horrible lineup decisions, horrible late game management. Why would Kerr have Steph inbound the ball in a crucial possession? Talking about the one where Barnes stole the ball from Butler, that didn't help. Yeah, there's a few turnovers late in the game. I'm just going to go back into the play-by-play here just so I can recall some of these plays down the stretch. I mean, Butler getting to the free throw line was great. And aside from that, it felt like the Warriors didn't have much offense. I thought the biggest play, if the Warriors had won, which I was like really excited about, was that when Vassell got the steal, Keldon Johnson went to him, and Draymond made a great defensive play, and then Jimmy was there for the rebound, and Castle went behind the over the back, and then fouled Butler, and the Warriors were in the bonus. So the Warriors went up 2 with 49 seconds left, and I thought, okay, that's a huge play. Like, hopefully we can close this out. And I'll look back at that and think that was a massive defensive play from Draymond, and then Butler's ability to be there and then make his free throws. And then Johnson made the tough hook over Draymond to tie the game. And then, Steph turning the ball over, Barnes stealing it. And then on that kind of ensuing possession, there's felt like there was a bit of miscommunication between Draymond and Jimmy. Draymond kind of came out to help a little bit on Castle and let Keldon Johnson was kind of behind him, and then Draymond couldn't recover in time, and Johnson made the layup to go in front. And then Barnes with a weird foul on Draymond. Maybe he just thought that Draymond was going to blow both free throws, and Draymond, to his credit, clutched them both out, and you thought, okay, here comes overtime, and then we know what we saw from Harrison Barnes. FTW Clan, where the hell is playoff Jimmy, man? I feel like he is yet to show a truly dominant playoff Jimmy performance. Well, this was his high in a Warrior uniform, 28 points. But again, he took 8 field goal attempts. I mean, he took a heap more, but just got fouled on them. 16 to 17 from the line. I mean, he played well. I'm not going to complain about a guy having 28, 4, and 7 on 8 field goal attempts. Very efficient. But yeah, you're right. Like, he's not hitting those big I think it's his jump shot. Like, that's going to be at the point where you think that playoff Jimmy might come to fruition, is when he starts hitting a few jumpers, right? And consistently, and particularly, from the mid-range. Doesn't necessarily have to be threes as such, but that's the thing for me at the moment, is that's just still hasn't arrived in any meaningful way yet. Until that happens, it's not really playoff Jimmy, is it? Berserkmonk says, Jimmy dropped 28 and Steph dropped 30. We shouldn't need more than that to beat this damn Spurs team. Agree with that. Berserkmonk says, Wemby-less and Foxless Spurs, no excuse to lose to them. Facts. Logan says, the most likely scenario is we either finish 6th and play the Lakers or a play-in. I think it's 50-50. Yeah. I don't know. The Lakers, that's going to be a huge first-round matchup. It's not an ideal result, but we'll wait and see. Jay says, Draymond can't be trusted at the end of a close game. That's not true. He's made huge plays in close games throughout the course of this season and throughout his entire career. He made 2 clutch free throws when he's a 70% free throw shooter in this one. Made a huge defensive play on Johnson. Made a mistake, I suppose, on the one at the end that initially put the Spurs in front with the Johnson layup. Again, miscommunication there with Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, I thought Draymond, like the veteran guys, Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, I think all played reasonably well. Just no one else really came along for the ride. They needed someone else, right? They needed someone, and they just couldn't get that fourth person to really, whether it was Pods or it was Moody or it was playing Kuminga for a bit more or Buddy. That's going to be the issue for Golden State. You kind of go into the postseason knowing what you're going to get from Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, but even then, that might not be enough against really good teams. And we saw that tonight. Like, those 3 guys played reasonably well, and yet a Spurs team who basically have nothing to play for still beat them. Berserkmonk says, we are finishing 7th. I don't see us beating the Clippers. Potentially, yeah. It's going to be a tough matchup. One thing I will point to, I guess, is the fact that the Clippers beat us early in the season when, way before Jimmy. And also, as I said before, the Warriors, it feels like they play better against better opposition. They're just more locked in at the moment. Isaac says, Kerr just doesn't trust Kuminga. It's as simple as that. At this point, I'm okay with him moving on, but I wish he'd have more opportunity to help the team now. Frankie says, tired of the same old bad habits with the Warriors. We're so tired of this with the Warriors. Yeah, there's been a lot of, was it really a bad habits thing? I don't think the turnovers, there's a few turnovers late that obviously cost them it up. I don't think the turnovers are really a huge issue. The biggest thing for me, you can look at it offensively with not much going on but behind Steph and Jimmy, but the fact you give up 38 points to the Spurs in the fourth quarter, that's not good. That is not good at all. So that's probably where they lost it, like the inability to get stops down the stretch. T-Ho says they play so crappy against teams without their stars. This in the Denver game without Jokic or Murray, they act like these games were just a given. Agree with that. Logan says he hasn't got his jumper going yet in regards to Jimmy. Mumbo says if we can't win if the bench don't step up. It's just this is kind of what it is like in the NBA. Role players and guys are getting inconsistent minutes, and young guys, they just are inconsistent from a production outpoint. From a production output, and therefore, I don't know. It's kind of a lottery, and this is what it is. And you just kind of got to hope that Steph, Jimmy, and Dre are going to show up every game, which they should, and that can be enough to win a lot of games here in the postseason. Whether it's enough for the Warriors to win a first round series or a couple of series or how far it takes them, we'll wait and see. Berserk Monk says, I just don't see how much we can trust our streaky shooters, Pods, Moody, and Buddy in high stakes, high pressure situations in the playoffs. You're going to have to. What's the alternative? Like, you just have to. Like, two of these guys have to be on the floor at all times. Like, you can, Steph, Jimmy, Dre, you've got to have two other guys out there, and it's probably going to be a case of opposing teams saying, all right, we're going to load up on Steph and Jimmy, and we're going to see if Pods can hit some shots and Moody can hit some shots, and Guy Santos, Kuminga, Buddy, Quentin Post, anyone else you want to name, Draymond. Like, we're going to see if they can beat us offensively. And there might be games where the Warriors, where those guys are capable of doing that. There's going to be times where Steph and Jimmy take matters into their own hands and potentially have huge, huge games, and that's enough. There's going to be other times, like we saw in this game where, they don't hit enough shots, those kind of supplementary guys, and that's the difference in the game. Nigga says, if we finish 7th, Memphis could be 8th. They have a tough schedule. I suppose as far as playing tournament matchups go, that would probably be the ideal one, I guess. But I also don't have a great memory of Warriors Memphis, as we all do. We don't have great memories of Warriors Memphis playing tournament. All right, this is going to be my last crack here. I apologize. Internet issues continuing. Melissa's comment, either fire Kerr or trade Kuminga. It's personal mad. Well, they're not going to fire Kerr, so I don't know, the Kuminga thing. The most interesting aspect of this to me is like, what do rival teams make of this? Do they think this is a real Warrior issue, or do they think it's a Kuminga issue? Because if they think it's a Kuminga issue, then no team's necessarily going to pay more than $20 million a year, let alone 25 or 30. But if they think this is simply a thing where the Warriors just aren't giving the runway to this guy and never truly have, and then maybe they can talk themselves into 25, 30 plus million a year. So we'll wait and see. Sky said, or whatever, Sky, I guess, says JK and Moody keep trying to shoot the 3-ball and they miss every time and never rush the paint as if they don't care. Well, Moody's a good shooter by percentage, but it feels like that's been on the dip recently. Mambo says Barnes was hot. Not sure why we didn't guard him harder. Also, if the three are not going, get to the paint. I think I'm very critical of that watching the second quarter, the inability to, try something different rather than just chucking up threes. Warriors can get very 3-ball happy. They are a jump shooting team still, even with Butler. But yeah, they've got to try something different sometimes. And that was probably where they lost the game, it must be said. Because, ideally, you go in 10 at the end of the first, or 9 or whatever it was. You maintain that lead at halftime, and then you come out, have that big third quarter. You're up by 20 plus at the end of the third, and the game's over. So that's probably where they lost the game, that first 6-7 minutes of the second quarter. Logan says, JK constantly trying to foul bait when he drives is very annoying. Yeah, because he doesn't get calls. And when he drives to the paint, he's, again, as you say, either foul baiting or he's just getting stripped and the ball's going the other way in transition. Yeah, not great. Then next says we lost the fourth 38-23. Poor. Really. And again, I think as much as we might look at the offensive struggles kind of thing, I think it's more so the defense that was probably the biggest factor in this game, and particularly in the fourth quarter. Andrew says, sadly, I think the Warriors season is over. It's not over. It's not over because they're guaranteed two, playing tournament chances to get a playoff spot, which is very disappointing that, they might reach that point and they have to go through the playing tournament. But I'm still confident they'll win one of the two games and make a first round playoff series, but how much that could potentially hurt them physically, and then not getting that rest and having to play extra basketball and getting less time between the end of the regular season and the playoffs, that's could be a problem, particularly given you're likely to face a really physical, defensive minded Houston team in that scenario, or maybe you even finish eighth and you have to play the Thunder, and that'd just be a disaster. So, yeah. Berserk Monk says 100% was a defensive issue. Spurs went on a 21-3 run early in the second, end of first, early second. Yeah. Yeah, I think that late first, early second was probably the time where the Warriors lost the game. Anyway, I'm going to finish it up. Thank you to those of you that have tuned in and have dealt with the early mic issues and the internet issues. I apologize. Once again, I don't know what it is about the internet. It just literally just decides to crap itself when I decide to do live streams, but whatever else. Good old Australian NBN. Yeah, can't do much about it. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. I'll be back for another post-game live. Fingers crossed the internet's a bit better on, what do we got, Friday? Friday? Yes. Friday, Saturday for me, against the Portland Trail Blazers. Let's hope the Warriors can get a win, because if they don't win out from here, I think a playing tournament berth is certainly going to be locked in, and the Warriors are going to have to play some extra games in order to get that playoff spot. Thank you very much again to those of you that tuned in, or those of you that are watching on the replay or listening via your podcast feed. The ongoing support is very much appreciated, as you guys. I'll finish a few comments here. Chip, last comment says, when 3-pointers aren't hitting, don't pull Moody. Even if he's outside shooting, he's bad because he'll go to the hole and play D. Not good. Thank you for your comments, guys. I hope to see you after the Trailblazers game. Let's hope for a better result from a